Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Leading mining lawyer Peter Leon has urged South Africa to join the Global Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, which promotes openness in mining. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer joins me in studio to tell us more about this. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Shannon.
Can you tell us more about the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative?
Yeah, its nickname is EITI, E-I-T-I, and it's an organization which has looked at world riches in terms of minerals. So there are a lot of countries that are mineral rich. You know, they've often got a lot of oil, they've got gas, or they've got metals and minerals. And the irony is that a lot of these countries are very poor. And they call it, you know, the minerals curse. Instead of being a blessing, it's been a curse. So they said, no, this is not on, because these countries should be doing very well. I mean, you take a country like South Korea. It's had to pull itself up from its bootstrings, mainly in agriculture. If it had had a lot of metals and minerals or oil and gas, I mean, it would have really been a huge front runner. So they're saying, no, there's no reason why these countries that are blessed, and they really are blessed, not cursed, the only reason why the economy doesn't grow is because they've got corrupt politicians. So they are going around the world promoting this idea that you join the extractive industries transparency initiative. So it's all about openness. And what they really want done is that as mining companies make money, they must reveal how much money they make and how much they give to the government. And then the government must confirm that it's received that and tell people what it's done with it. And in this way, they're hoping that you know, this money won't disappear into corrupt gaps. So I think it's a holy and a wholesome effort. But when first approached in 2002, South Africa didn't want to be tarred with this brush of you know, corruption. So it sort of backed out of this idea that we were too holy for that, you know. But in the meantime, you know, countries like Norway have stepped up to the plate and said, no, we will sign this. We will join up on this Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. We will be totally transparent. And we know that, you know, Norway's done a fantastic job with its oil and gas. I mean, the money that they have used from that to develop their infrastructure and their schools and their education has been unbelievable. But they're saying, no, we're prepared to subject ourselves to this. And even in September, the president of the US, Barack Obama, said, no, the US must join up. Now, for South Africa still to stand out of this means that we're being put in the lowest rung of hell, along with, you know, the known corrupt parties, the likes of Angola, which has no transparency, plenty of corruption, always issues there. All the miners who have gone in have really had a hard time. Zimbabwe, you know, we hear all the time that there is corruption with those Marangi diamonds. You know, we even hear, and I hope it's not true, that the conduit is through Sandton. You know, and at that point, Mugabe apparently gets half the revenue. And this is for his re-election campaign. Now, you know, that would be shocking if it were true. But that's what you hear on the grapevine, that there is corruption within this diamond blessing that Zimbabwe has. So it is good that the world is coming round to this idea that countries that are blessed with minerals mustn't be cursed with poverty. And there are 3.5 billion people, you know, living in these countries, and hopefully, you know, they can be cut from their poverty shackles.
Now, the South African government decided not to join the EITI, as you said. Why is Peter Leon urging South Africa to join now? What benefits will it have?
You know, if you examine the statistics, you find that the countries that are perceived to not have corruption, in other words, if there's a perception, no, you're clean, you find that they grow more because they get more foreign direct investment. So we should encourage people to see South Africa as a good investment destination. And by joining this, you know, the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, ET, it will give foreign investors more confidence. But with South Africa not joining and not recanting on its stand, they look at surveys that have taken place here. I mean, one of the surveys indicated that 83%, which is an overwhelming number of South Africans, believe that there is corruption within government in South Africa. Now that could be a perception, but that's how the world will see it as well. And we know that there haven't been many convictions, on this corruption front, which also is a worrying aspect. So if we do open up our books on mining, it will show our goodwill. It will show our determination to be a country that is not corrupt.
Now, it's been reported that it's quite difficult to gain access to mining rights in South Africa, yet the country still has its reasons for not joining ET, as you say. What are these reasons?
When I heard, we were at the Mandela Institute, and Lisa Chamberlain popped up from the Centre of Applied Legal Studies. This is at Wits University, this institute, quite an impressively run institute with quite a few discussions and updates on various legal issues, because it's part of the School of Law. And when you got the report back from Lisa Chamberlain, who also represents the Mining Environmental and Community Alliance, I was astounded that we've got a constitution which says the government will answer your questions, they will give you the information. And you can see that even with a powerful constitution and whatever section it is, I think it's 36, section 36, they are obliged to give you information. I mean, if you request information on who has obtained a prospecting right in a certain area, the government is obliged in terms of the law, the constitution, to give you that. And yet they don't. And so you can have the Bible at home, maybe even read it, but you don't live according to it. And this is what's happening. We are honoring our constitution in the breach. I mean, when you look at the statistics that came up there, you would see that only 4 of the 11 cases where access was granted were the relevant records actually provided. So you have people saying, can you give us details of these rights, because it impacts on the communities, near mine communities, etc. And for half of them, they got no reply, which in terms of the law is deemed to be a refusal. And then there's also a statutory time period when you're supposed to get these answers within a certain time, and not one of them came within the time period. And often they use standardized letters, which sometimes were irrelevant to respond to you. So it was just like a rote response. I think that is the most serious part of this. Here we're saying that yes, we've got public finances, etc., and we should be a first world country. Why are you tarring us with this brush that ET is trying to expose of skirmishes and corruption? And we're not like that. But you can see here that we've got serious problems of a lack of transparency. That you actually ask a government department for information, they are obliged in terms of the law to give it to you, and they don't. And so what do? You have a series of court cases or something. So I think that we really need to be transparent. We really need the Constitution to be honoured, and it's not.
When do you think we would find out about the outcome of this?
Well, I think that the pressure will start being applied now. That we have a situation in South Africa where the ordinary community is now looking at mining and saying, we're not benefiting from this. So, they're seeing it as an area where they don't benefit. In actual fact, they have benefited. People need to explain to them exactly how they benefit. We wouldn't be sitting here in Johannesburg. We have built this on gold. and a lot of the other countries like San Francisco have had the same sort of thing, where the starting point has been a precious metal like gold. So platinum is the next big thing for us, and but we can see that there is a groundswell of opinion that the mining industry should be nationalized, and they want it nationalized because they feel they'll get a greater revenue stream from it if that is so. We know that won't be the case, and we'll go into probably the dark age if it happens, because that's when you could really have a lot of corruption, as we've seen in other countries. But by the same token, the spotlight is on the mining industry. So I think that government has realized they must facilitate this mining industry. They must make sure that it doesn't shrink, that it grows, because there is sunrise possibility here. It's not a sunset industry. And you could see the state president in his State of the Nation address, just about his whole speech was around infrastructure, and a lot of that infrastructure was to make sure that the mines could get their metals and minerals to market quickly and efficiently. So there is a late realization of how important mining is. And in order to prove to the public that the mining industry gives everything it can, I think that the pressure will be on for them to join this extractive industry transparency initiative, especially as we see a leader like Barack Obama saying, we're going to join it as the United States. That will force European countries to do it. Developed countries will do it along with developing countries. At the same time, South Africa is doing a lot in Africa at the moment. It also needs to show that leadership as a developed country when you compare it with Africa. So I think it's just a matter of time now where we will join up with this. And then you don't just walk in. You're first a candidate. They look through every nook and cranny, and eventually, you become a full member through compliance. So it'll be quite an exercise, good exercise for South Africa at this crossroad. And I think the pressure is building now for South Africa to recant. And although the Department of Mineral Energy's sort of objected to this in the past, and even a former Foreign Affairs Minister, I expect this to turn, and that we will show new openness as part of the counter to potential corruption.
Well, thank you, Martin. We'll definitely keep an eye on that one.
It's a great pleasure, Shannon.
That's the show for today. Join us again next time for more news and insight into what's happening in the mining world.